Welcome to Baltimore City, the home of the Ravens, the home of the Orioles. Did I hear some booing over there? That is not fair. But absolutely the home of the late Congressman Elijah E. Cummings, who loved you so much that he worked with other Jewish leaders here in Baltimore City to create a program called the Elijah Cummings Youth Program in Israel. You can clap to that. Now, you may see or may remember Elijah as someone who had a fierce voice in the U.S. Congress. And he was a staunch champion for justice and human rights and civil rights. He was a leader who worked across the aisle. He worked with Republicans and Democrats and people of all different backgrounds. He was truly a statesman leader, someone who had deep empathy and who cared about people and worked with people of all different backgrounds. But let me tell you something. While you may have seen him on CNN or certainly MSNBC, you might have seen him working from the podium where he was leading the committee, Government Oversight Reform Committee in Congress. And you may have seen him standing with and meeting in the office with former President Donald Trump, former President Barack Obama, former President Bill Clinton. The fact of the matter is that in his leadership, he carried with him pain. Now, I want you to listen to this carefully. Pain is what drove his leadership style. Pain is what drove his desire to work with people of different backgrounds. Pain is what drove his desire to create the Elijah Cummings Youth Program in Israel with people of all backgrounds and of the Jewish faith. But this is where the pain stemmed from. It stemmed from how he grew up, the society he was born into. As an African-American man, a young boy, born into the Jim Crow South. Now, just in case you didn't know, Baltimore is south of the Mason-Dixon line, and Maryland had slavery, just like many of the rest of the southern states here in the United States. And coming out of that slave context was an institution of power called Jim Crow, where Elijah grew up having separate schools. He could not go to schools with white kids. He could not walk into the front doors of stores downtown. He and his family members could not worship in churches or other houses of worship with people of different colors. They were born into a rigid system of racial segregation that forced them to live a narrow life of inequality. Now, you all have heard that word before, inequality, right? And it's still with us. But get this, before he was ever a grown man, Elijah was a boy of 11 who decided to take part in an integration march. And he basically joined with other young African-American kids and integrated a pool that was designated all white. He didn't know it at the time, but he was a part of a major revolution, a revolution in values, a revolution in power dynamics, and certainly a revolution in the way that the United States of America conducted business. He was a part of the civil rights movement. And just like Goodman, Cheney, and Schwerner went down to the South in order to try to uplift the values of civil rights and to push for justice, Elijah did the same thing right here in Baltimore City. But get this, and you can clap to that, absolutely. Justice is always worth clapping for. Discrimination is so 18th century. Discrimination is so 19th century. Prejudice is so 20th century. And yet, what are we living with today? We're living with hate. It's rising again, ladies and gentlemen. It is rising again, and we cannot let that happen. We know what this script looks like, and it's time for us to move forward towards a future where we not just flip the script, we flip the world. Do you hear me? I'm talking to you. You are the future presidents of countries. You are the future corporate titans. You are the future executive directors of nonprofit organizations. You are the future of this world, and we need you to be not just power players. I know you're here to learn how to do politics. I know you're here to learn how to advocate, and all of this is absolutely necessary. I wrote a book called The Political Action Handbook, a how-to guide for the hip-hop generation, because I believe that young people needed to be involved in our political process. But we cannot go about doing it with the same script from the 18th, 19th, and 20th century. This is the 21st century, if you didn't know. Hello? Can I hear a hello? And that means that we have to go with a different leadership style. And I call that an inclusion revolution. An inclusion revolution. You are not going to be able to be a global leader with influence at the global level, the national level, state or local level if you do not know how to navigate difference. If you only are comfortable with people who look and sound like you and who have a similar background with you, and you have no ability to interact with people of different backgrounds, different races and ethnicities, different nationalities, then your potential for leadership is stunted at the starting line. Do you hear me? It's stunted at the starting line. If you are starting with a paradigm that is set in another century that is already past, your leadership potential has been stunted at the starting line. What we need for you to do is to become leaders for the 21st century, to set a vision for a new world order, not just in terms of power dynamics, but a new world order in terms of values. And the number one value that we all need to embrace, and I want you to listen carefully, is that we should value each other on the level of our common humanity. That's called humanism. When you can embrace people on the level of our common humanity, knowing that no matter where you come from, no matter what color you are, no matter what gender you are, ladies, can I hear where the ladies are? By the way, at least 2 or 3 of these ladies are going to be presidents of their countries. I want you to know that. If you can work and deal with difference, then you are a leader for this century. And you are a leader that's going to be able to deal with the issues of climate change. Get this, the script that's being written now is that we've got billionaires who are actually privately financing trips out into space. Now, do you think that they're privately financing trips out into space because they're just interested in, seeing what the world looks like from, outer space? Why do you think that they're out there financing trips to outer space? Because they know that this planet is in the process of being destroyed. And they're looking for new frontiers that they can monetize and, yes, inhabit. And so we have to be the leadership, the inclusive leadership of a new world vision with a new world order that is focused on embracing the value of ecology. Ecology. How we live at one with the planet. We can't just continue to dump on this planet and expect it to love us back and to serve us in perpetuity. It's already failing. We need ecological leaders who are going to embrace new forms of how we go about interacting with the planet. So let me just say this in closing, and that is, you are here in Baltimore City. You will see, if you get into the communities today, and I know that you're going out to work on different projects, but you will see poverty. You will see the face of Black poverty, likely. You will see people who are very, very different from you. But that is not an occasion to stare down or look down your nose. That's an occasion to look and understand the human being, the person, to get to know the individuals who will be interacting with you today, because that is the essence of servant leadership, and that is the essence of inclusive leadership. And that, by the way, is the kind of leadership that Elijah Cummings actually brought to the world. So thank you very much. Go forth, do good, and be an inclusive leader leading an inclusion revolution. Thank you so much.